Hey, what's going on, everybody? All right, so I'm in Chicago filming the remainder portion of the brand film for Esther Choi. And so she honed in on something that I said earlier today. It just sounded to her like very significant. To me, it just sounded natural. So I figured if she felt like it was significant, then maybe it would be of help to you. And so what we're essentially talking about is directing your, you don't necessarily want to call them talent, right? Because these are real people inside of brand films, inside of your documentaries, but how to direct your on-camera subjects, give them direction so that way you can create a scenario where you're filming them. My goal is always to create an authentic situation that is kind of like a parallel or a reflection of what would normally happen. I'm not trying to create something or show my clients in a light that is inappropriate for them or is foreign to them, but I'm really trying to get a sense of what are the normal situations that they engage in, and then how do we recreate that. Say, for example, you were doing a customer testimonial. So I just wrapped up filming a series of customer testimonials for another client, and the bulk of that story is the relationship between the sales rep and the customer. And so what I did is I would first get on the phone with the sales rep as well as the customer and just ask them, like, how would they usually work together, what they would say, where they would be, what they would review. And then when we would show up, I would basically just put them back in that situation. It's what I call a mock meeting, because it's a contrived situation that's designed just for the film so I can get the footage, but the footage I'm capturing is a reflection of what usually happens within their day-to-day life anyways. However, to have a successful mock meeting where you really capture engaging facial expressions and engaging conversations, it actually looks like you're capturing what does usually happen, I ask my subjects to come prepared to do work. That even though it is a mock meeting, I tell them that they should come prepared to actually be productive, to use the time to accomplish things. The reason why I tell them to do this is because it makes it a heck of a lot easier for them to ignore me and to forget that I'm even there if they're very focused and very engaged in the conversation. In order for me to just completely blur into the background and be ignored, you have to create a situation where they are having an engaging conversation. So I'm doing everything I possibly can to create the environment where they will have an engaging conversation and ignore me. And so when we showed up today, because we had planned a mock meeting for Esther and one of her clients, and so when we showed up to film, she looked at me and she's like, so you're not really going to use any of the audio here? I'm like, no, oftentimes, even if you do, if I kind of have it in the background, it's just like garbled sort of like nat audio, just so you can get a sense that two people are having a conversation. But usually what you're hearing is a voiceover with the music, right? I'm not using the audio. And she asked me, well then, can we just talk about anything? And my response to that was, yes, you can talk about anything as long as it's not small talk. Because what I've learned after setting up many mock meetings is that when people engage in small talk, although you can't hear anything they're saying and I'm not using the audio, you can see that just by their body language, by their eyes, by their facial expressions, that they are not having an engaging conversation. It's a dead giveaway, right? And it's almost like they're communicating to the audience that they're detached, that they're not zoned in. If you think about it, that's the whole point of small talk. The whole point of small talk is to find some sort of rhythm, find some sort of common ground, so that way you can start to gain, your conversation can start to gain momentum. That way you can start to build and hopefully find enough starting points to build an engaging conversation. Or you just awkwardly stay in small talk area. And when you have a camera in your face and you are focused on small talk, it's really easy to just stay in small talk area and not know what you're going to talk about. So I just encourage, when I'm directing my story subjects, I just encourage them to come prepared to do work, come prepared to workshop, come prepared to talk about products, come prepared to talk about new initiatives, whatever the core focus of their business is, come prepared to do work on that. So that way they create an engaging environment and their body language does not betray that it is contrived, that it is a mock meeting. And that way, the fact that you're avoiding small talk, you're basically removing the mockery from their face, in a sense. And you're removing that fear and that anxiety, and that there's almost like you can see behind their eyes a knowingness that they're lying, right? So by getting them engaged, you're removing that fear, you're removing that anxiety, you're removing that self-consciousness, and then they just get rolling. And it's like magic. It's like I basically, at that moment, I've created a situation where I get to become a fly on the wall. I get to move around, get the shots that I need, and all of them look great because the people involved in that meeting are engaged in what they're doing. In a very similar way, even if it's one person, and say you need to film them reading a book, writing notes, typing on a computer, doing some sort of experiment, actually have them do it. Actually have them do work. So even if they're by themselves, you have to give them something to do beyond just a certain action. And I even think about this of if you want somebody to walk past you, if you want to get some sort of a walking shot where they're going past you, where they're maybe say they're walking down a hallway or something, I will often request that they walk to a destination that is beyond where I need them to go. Because what will happen is if you just tell them to go to a mark, they're going to walk all the way to that mark and then awkwardly slow down when they get there and suddenly just do this weird, awkward turn before they ever hit the mark. They're like, is that okay? And it's like, no, it's not okay. You look weird now. So, but it's not their fault because we basically gave them a weird instruction. So you have to include in your instruction the follow through. Because if you include the follow through, if you ask them to do something beyond what you actually need them to do, okay, then you're going to get that moment that you're hoping for. And so that's what I'm trying to create when I create these mock meetings, is I'm asking them to do something beyond what I need. So that way I've now created an environment where I can get all of the things that I need from them. Hope this was helpful. As always, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, or you can find me at Storytelligent on Instagram and send me a DM there, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.